Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of SEScoops. And today I'm joined by one of the most versatile performers I've ever seen, to be honest. She is an actress, a manager, a ring announcer, and so much more. But most importantly, she is in her attitude era. She is Lulu. How are you doing today?
Hi, I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so much, Ella, for the very lovely introduction.
Of course, and obviously, we have so much to talk about wrestling, Dark Side of the Ring, your acting background, but, I am so excited and honored to speak with you ahead of the season premiere to one of my favorite shows, and I know one of yours as well, Dark Side of the Ring. You will be portraying Sunny, aka Tammy Sitch, in the new season of Dark Side of the Ring, which premieres tonight on Vice TV, and as I kind of understand it, this role seems like it was kind of meant for you. I know you said the stars kind of aligned to make this happen. So for those who don't know, can you kind of walk us through how you became involved with the series and got casted for this role specifically?
Oh yeah, it's quite an I'm shocked by the story myself. First of all, yes, this was the role for me, and no other girl was getting this role. That was not gonna happen. My background has always been theater, always been performance, and I was just this past winter enrolled in an acting a professional acting course that teaches us the business side of acting. And so this day, it's some cold winter, I guess a Monday in January of this year. And I'm doing a Zoom class with my acting teacher. And she's talking about casting this day. And we start to look at certain platforms for casting for actors. And one of the platforms that I'm on that popped up showed a Dark Side of the Ring audition. And when I took a second look at it, I saw it was for Tammy Sitch, and I just silently freaked the F right out in the middle of this class and was like, holy shit. Not only is there an audition for the absolute #1 character I would love to play, it is due today. Mm-hmm. So I spent the rest of my afternoon, I dropped everything. I was like, let's set this up. I was already, because I was already a fan of the show, I already followed all the producers and the directors, like everybody on social media. And I am a personal friend of the on-set photographer. And I do have my connections from the wrestling world because I was always involved in it. Yes. So I DM'd the director, and I was like, oh my God, I absolutely need to get this role. I have to get it. And the deadline is literally in less than 12 hours. Mm-hmm. What do I do? He got me in contact with the casting agent, and I just picked a couple promos from Sunny, and I picked an In the Ring kind of promo from her, and I just recreated them, worked really hard, sent the video in, and here we go. So I definitely put the work in. It wasn't like, I definitely came from an actor angle at this. To get this job, because I am not a wrestler, although I'm involved in the world. Yes. But I'm an actor, so I genuinely came at this show as an actor. And that was kind of crazy. Again, sorry to ramble, but the fact that it was due that day, and had we not been talking about that day specifically in my class, it could have very well just swept.
Would have never known.
Yeah. And I would have freaked. I would have been like bawling my eyes, crying tomorrow, being like, that should have been me. So here we go. And now I'm part of the family. I absolutely love the Dark Side family. Last night, Jason Eisner and Evan Housey, the producers, and myself and quite a few of the camera crew, we all watched the AEW Double or Nothing pay-per-view last night together. And tomorrow we get to go to the Royal Cinema here in Toronto for the Vice TV premiere. So we're having a fun few days together. I'm also back on set with Dark Side tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning for a Marty Jannetty episode, which I get to play his main girlfriend, one of, like, I don't know, millions of girlfriends that Marty Jannetty had. But I get to play his most special one tomorrow, so that'll be fun.
I'm curious. I mean, I was going to kind of tease that at the end, but since you kind of laid it out here, No,
Okay.
no, it's great. You're like answering questions that I already had. You're like a mind reader. But no, that's an exciting opportunity for you. How we'll get into like your preparation and all of that, but how different was it? Obviously the Sunny role was more probably involved than playing a girlfriend of Marty Jannetty, I would assume.
Yes.
What was the differences like between portraying those two roles and kind of preparing for them?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's kind of we actually mentioned this last night. The producers and I were like, it seems kind of weird to get really excited about an episode that is actually very, very dark, very
Yeah.
heartbreaking. We know that Tammy's in an incredibly difficult situation right now as we speak. In fact, I have been in contact with the real Tammy Sitch. We are kind of like pen pals. I know that her lawyer was very firm on the fact that she could not talk to Darkseid. But anyways, that's a side note. We talked
Yeah.
about that. I know that's she's in a really, really difficult situation at the moment. And not that I would ever stand by or condone anything that causes violence to oneself or others. But the difference, to answer your question, is first of all, Tammy playing Marty Jannetty's girlfriend is just fun. I get to come in and that's cool. Like for me, I haven't even done it yet. Tomorrow we'll see what's on the shooting. I don't even have the call sheet yet. So we'll see what we're shooting tomorrow, later today. I'm not quite sure. But for Tammy, I read her entire autobiography. I think she wrote it in 2006 while she was in prison. It's called A Shattered Star. I highly recommend everyone in the wrestling community who's interested in the Tammy Sitch story reading her autobiography, because it is, first of all, it's 100% her voice. It's not like you have some professional writer writing it for the celebrity. And she goes really in depth into her father and his importance in her life. This really big, giant, huge Russian man who just drank and ate all the time. This was Tammy's father. And also her parents were like the most supportive and lovely. And she was like a fan since she was 11 years old. She has the most beautiful and just bright and exciting beginnings. The first half of Tammy, like in the 90s, right, like from her childhood leading up to her being the most downloaded person on the internet, this is amazing and beautiful. And then the downfall, of course, is like literally the exact opposite. But we didn't get into that in this episode. But to prepare for the role, I literally just watched everything I possibly could of Sunny, which was an absolute pleasure, because when she was in the height of her day, she was truly, in my opinion, like one of the absolute best, if not the best, at what she did. The way she made the valet and the management role one of the most important, iconic, I guess, characters in the world is really important to me. And then you have people, of course, like Paul Bearer, and they're just so iconic. And I'm missing this iconic management today. I don't know who I can look at today and be like, that is an iconic manager. So I'm really missing that in the world. But Tammy is I think she deserves to be like a mini TV movie, or at least deserves a whole nother episode, maybe when her lawyers give some more permission, because the story of her childhood and her father and the loss of Chris at a young age and all this trauma, unresolved trauma that we now, thank God, the health community and we're starting as a society to start looking at mental health and childhood trauma. We're looking at that connection with substance abuse now. I feel like there's about a lot more compassion and a lot more information and accessible sort of like reading and what am I trying to say here? I think it's just society today is a lot more, can embrace that conversation in ways absolutely they were not embracing a conversation like that in the 90s, right? So we're now starting to have these conversations. I'm a huge advocate for mental health, and I have a therapist, and I highly recommend this for everyone. And my heart breaks for the fact that it's still not accessible and it's still not part of health systems programs. So like, it's really just, okay, I could totally rant forever about that, but her story is really important to me because of the mental health and addictions conversation that her story begs us to talk about, and especially because it's a woman that we're talking about too, and the way women were treated in the 90s, like Pamela Anderson skyrocketed to fame and then just eaten apart, like just eaten and just totally just tossed.
Yeah.
And now you see Pamela Anderson coming out now, and she's somehow survived all of that and she's thriving. And then you see Sunny, and she's not thriving, and she did not survive that, and she went down incredibly dark path. So yeah, sorry, again, rambling again, but her story is very important, I think.
I'm curious, obviously we'll see most of her story portrayed. It's also, you can't get everything in that like 40-ish minute episode, but I'm curious, through your research or even communication with Sunny directly, was there anything new that you learned or about her story or Chris Candido that you didn't know beforehand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had no idea that Tammy was, if she didn't fall in love with Chris Candido when she was 17 years old, her plan was she was going to university to become a biologist.
Wow.
I think it was marine bio. I don't know if it was marine. It probably wasn't, but it was something in biology. She was like this hyper smart, intellectual, academic student. She was like the cheerleader of her high school. Good, well, in the shortest skirt, she says, she's hyper flirtatious, but she was like a really clean, goody two shoes kind of girl. She was a daddy's girl. And I thought that was amazing that she was also so just at the top of her class. She was a really smart person. And I think it's cool that she wanted to be a biologist. And then her father accepted the fact that she wanted to go on tour to do Smoky Mountain wrestling with Chris. But that was a cool little, I just thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things, people can write biographies and they can have portrayals, but there's so many like minute details that I don't think a lot of people know. And I don't know, again, we haven't seen the release of it yet, so I don't know what's going to happen. But I think imagine just she would have been on a different track. It's kind of weird. Like you talk about kind of the stars aligning, like sometimes life just takes you in a different direction, and it's crazy to think what would have been if she like had gone down that direction, or maybe hadn't met Chris and everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wild. Yeah, it was just because he did a high school wrestling show. He did a show at her high school. And another interesting thing, which is actually not really maybe a nice piece of fact, is that her name Tamara comes from the vodka her dad was drunk on the day she was born.
Wow.
She was supposed to be named something else. Yeah. And he was like wasted. And while her mother was giving birth down this one hallway in the hospital and they were naming her, I forget something else, her father was like off his rocker, just totally drunk down the other end of the hall in a bed while the doctors were treating him. And he was yelling at the doctors and nurses, Tamara, Tamara, her name is Tamara, because that was the vodka he was drinking, which is kind of like so crazy, darkly symbolic of her, what ended up happening to her. Yeah. Again, childhood trauma, psychotherapy, and just all the psychology behind that, it kind of makes sense. It's when you have a caretaker as a child who abuses a substance. Unfortunately, it's too often that children, I don't know, I just feel like it's really hard for children to have to fight what they were taught. But that's another interesting one. Her name comes from a bottle of vodka. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dark new fact that I didn't know after reading her autobiography.
I'm curious for you, mental health is obviously important when it comes to portraying these darker roles and having to do research on like darker and more sensitive kind of subjects. How do you kind of keep your own mental health in check, like portraying these roles and doing your research so you don't get kind of lost in that either?
That's like a real thing. I come from, that just gives me a flashback to this 4-hour long, stunning Richard III production I did years and years ago with this very cool avant-garde company, experimental company from Toronto called Katazuki. The director is Tatiana Jennings, who is my mentor. She runs the Humber Theatre School here in Toronto. I worked with her professional company for a decade. And when we did shows, we would work I'm used to working for years and years on things and highly rehearsing them. So to be in the wrestling world is it's a little different because there's a lot more improvisation happening there. But
Yeah.
I remember certain characters that I would have to live in for that long. Like if we spent 2 years on a show, would really start affecting my life. I might even, yeah, I don't know. I think even like, was it Jodie Foster who had mentioned the way certain roles affected her too? Like for real, that actually happens. And I've experienced it with certain things before. But in this one, if anything, the way that that working on Tammy has affected my life has only informed me more of things I would like to do in my own work as Lulu, as Lulu, as a presence in the community. I think I don't think I'm like the flirty, cute cheerleader body Donna style that she is, but there's something about the way she moves. If I look at her movements, the way Tammy is she used to be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't even know if I'm answering your question very well, but she and her energy and her passion and the way that she moves around the stage and uses the audience and uses the camera and the way that she dresses, all of those things have influenced me in a very positive manner because she's given me lots of fun ideas for my own work. So, but it does break my heart, and I'd have to also create distance from certain levels of her story too, because I have I have witnessed firsthand very important close people in my life who've struggled in similar ways with alcohol addiction, and it has definitely reminded me a lot of certain people that I know, and I have to create certain boundaries when I do work on a certain character, because I can't completely let that absorb my life. I'm defined by that person. I'm not defined by that character. But
no, I get that.
Kind of
keeping it does, keeping that distance between being cognizant of it too, because especially with stuff, I mean, Dark Side of the Ring, it's inherently, have touching kind of darker, more kind of heartbreaking traumas and all these different stories. I feel like it's necessary to kind of create that barrier. But before we get into like your experience on set and stuff, you mentioned obviously in your audition there was kind of 2 Sunny promos that you kind of recreated. I'm curious, were they ones off the top of your head, or which ones did you recreate / reproduce in that tape?
One was for, oh my gosh, I wish I could remember it right now. I'm going to try to do it right now. Oh, what was it? It was, well, first of all, one was just the body Donna's of her coming into the ring, and she's like, I know you all know who I am. I'm Sunny, this is Skip, and she was such a bitch too. It was so cute because she was smiling. She goes, I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of looking at all you fat, ugly, out of shape morons. And then she points to this poor guy in the audience, a little bit bigger guy, and he's wearing I think it might be a Gold's Gym kind of t-shirt or something. And she goes, you over here with the bell bars on your shirt. What do you think you know about exercise? She's like, all I've seen you lift since you got here were hot dogs and soda. So the funny thing about the body Donnas is because Vince McMahon originally wanted them to be baby faces, but they just ended up just being heels, which is hilarious. So there was that. And so she's like, I want you all to get a good hard look at the ring and look at the 2 most physically fit wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation. And so that was the first one, where she's ripping apart the crowd, telling them she's sick and tired of their shit, of their being fat and ugly and out of shape. Horrible. And then the other one was Farouk Assad. She was his management. I think it was for it was a SummerSlam promo. And it's just her. She's not in the ring, and they're doing like a backstage promo, and Farouk's like twice her size, so it's really fun. So I just played that one looking up. I used Farouk's text and I overlaid it in there, but it's you can search that one. So she's wearing like a white blouse, and she's what did she say? Frukasad, the modern day gladiator. And Ahmed Johnson, I bet you think you're pretty funny, huh? Well, I got another thing coming for you. And I think it was Frukasad and Ahmed Johnson, and they were gonna do SummerSlam. I forget which year it was. 90s for sure. Anyways, I'm supposed to have a good memory as an actor, but my memory is always.
There's probably so much going on. You're balancing a lot of things right now, so like I don't blame you.
Oh my gosh. It is, yeah, here, where is it? Right here. Assad and oh, I shouldn't. There it is. Oh no, never mind. I'm gonna stop doing this now.
Don't you love ads?
I just love it. Yes, I'm gonna stop with that now. But it was this one here. Oh no, you can't even see it. There it is. Frukasad and Sunny.
Yeah.
The blur's not working.
Yeah.
Anyway, I love the images of them. Frukasad and Sunny together. That was pretty great. And that was it. That was the two that I chose. And I actually wore like a really beautiful vintage old bathing suit that it used to be my grandma's when she was young, and it had the same kind of body Donna vibe. It's like red, and it had some sort of metallic triangle here. It looked really cute. But anyways, those were the two pieces I chose. So Sunny and Skip going into the ring, ripping the audience apart, and Frukasad for a promo for their summer. I think it was SummerSlam.
Yeah, now I'm curious too, without giving too much away, as again, the premiere is coming up shortly. Can you tell us more about your experience on set, or what fans can maybe expect in your portrayal as Sunny?
Well, what you can expect in my portrayal is, first of all, I'm a little bit bummed that it's not a scripted series, because I would love to challenge my acting chops on this. You know, my experience on set is that because it's all reenactment, they're not miking me, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the other actors, and usually in general actors, well, they're not mic'd, they start mouthing it. That's not going to work for me. I can't do that. So I literally was screaming and yelling and shouting and saying all the, Sunny promos on that set, screaming at the top of my lungs. So you can know that any shot that you see of me,
and you're yelling,
I was really loud. And that helps for me. And another thing is again, it's not scripted, so that really kind of sucks, but I really hope that you'll experience this surreal feeling that you're seeing Sunny behind the screen. I was pleasantly I had a really flattering, beautiful comment from the director where he said that there were only a couple moments in his history of working on Darkside, or even Tales from the Territories, that he felt the actual real people. So there was Abdullah the Butcher and myself. And I was so grateful to hear that he said that those were the two moments in the history of Darkside that he felt that the real person was on the other side of the camera. And that was an excellent compliment for me. That's what the goal is as an actor, is to be invisible as an actor. I don't want you to see me. I want you to really have that crazy feeling like you're actually seeing Sunny, like you're actually seeing Tammy. So hopefully when you see me playing her, you don't see me. That's my hope, is that you really are just like, holy shit, wow, that is Tammy right there. And you have that magical moment in film where that happens. And this experience on set was phenomenal. The cinematographer, Keenan Lynch, is absolutely beautiful. The color, the way they shoot it. I mean, I have never seen wrestling, like the stories of wrestling depicted in like such artistic, beautiful manner. The way they do it in this void, in this black sort of memory space. You actually feel like you're watching the memory. I don't know. You watch Darkside. I just think the way they go about it is amazing. And the experience is just amazing. Every single person is an absolute sweetheart. Andy Appel, who was the director on the block that did tomorrow, I think Jason Eisner is directing tomorrow. But absolutely so talented, so amazing. Would love to work with these people again and again and again. Everybody from even honestly the craft people. There was a up and coming wrestler in craft. Every single person I
Wow.
met was somehow involved. I met
Yeah.
so many wrestlers, and in fact, that's really how I really started to work with Super Kicked, because the Super Kicked promotion, wrestling promotion in
Yeah.
Toronto, their ring is the ring you see in the series, and the owner of Super Kicked was playing. Chris was playing HBK Shawn Michaels in my episode. And we had such a blast that first day. And I was like, guys, I want to do this with like, let's do this in real life. Let's make this happen. So that started in real life. And I just had a Super Kick show last Friday, and
I
it's
know.
so much fun. But being on set around all those wrestlers, and even when we're on breaks eating food, you're talking wrestling, you're like the costume department is so phenomenal that you can only imagine. There's like the Ric Flair section is unto itself phenomenal. You're in this magical place where you look up and you see some road warrior costumes. This
Right.
costume department is unlike any other costume department. And Stella, my friend Stella, who I've worked with many, many times, who does the hair and makeup, and also Mel, who does the makeup, and Sarah and the costumes. They're just like, this team is so great. I'm just gonna say one really quick, cool, fun thing about
Sure.
Stella, who does the hair. Stella, love you, Stella. One day she comes to set and she has these real photos from 1999 of her and Rena Mero and Mark Mero together.
Wow.
Because in 1999, she did Sable's makeup for her PR tour for Playboy. This is the kind of people working on Dark Side. They're the real deal. So I had the woman who once did Sable's makeup in 1999 now doing my hair for the Sunny episode. So every single person is special on that show, even though you don't see them.
I'm curious too. It is wrestling, so inherently, there's some physicality involved. A lot of it is reenactment, but I would assume at the very least there was some physical tasks or maybe some stunts during performing, maybe. I know you said before that you're not really a physical person, but how did you train your body for this kind of physical? I would assume there's some physicality to it at least.
Oh my God. In my last interview, I kind of was like, why did I say that? I'm a hardcore physical person. I'm a very
Okay.
physical. In fact, I really truly believe if I wanted to be a wrestler, I could.
Yeah.
I totally am, like, body style, I'm totally a mesomorph. I put on muscle easy, and like I literally am not even working out right now. If I started to, I think I could
Be
get
jacked.
crazy. I could get jacked, not like, actually, to toot my own horn, I could get
Do it.
I could get jacked. But I choose not to be a wrestler as a choice, because
Yes, I know.
I do not want to do that to my body. I am not a ride or die person like that. It's like I'm not willing to sign that contract with my health. So I wanted to find my place in this world in another way. But yeah, when I was a kid, I used to be a figure skater. I have 2 golds and a bronze. I used to be in a lot of youth bands as a drummer. I was always an avid runner. I was always in the theater shows, wherever I had the chance. But the theater school that I studied at, Humber, is physically based, like it's a physical theater school. So rather than training us to get into Shaw or Stratford and everything being about text, for 3 years, I was on the ground at 8 in the morning stretching, because we had a day until 6, a long day ahead of us, doing tons of different dance and movement classes, tons of different voice and technique classes until like 6 p.m. In fact, often we were at school on Saturdays, and they really ran that school like a private school. It started with 30 something people in the first year, and it got whittled away like down to 16 people. So it was a very hardcore training that I had. And yeah, I had a lot of discipline in that time. So just to say, I do believe my past is incredibly physical. Actually, I I don't want to break like I don't want to destroy myself.
Yeah.
And wrestling is not a joke.
No.
It's very, very, very hard. And I actually have a bit of an issue on a whole nother conversation, a bit of an issue with people who just wake up and are like, I think I can be a wrestler because I was a fan of wrestling as a kid. Like, no, it is, you have to be incredibly athletically skilled,
Yeah.
or you have to have serious performing chops. And this is all things that there are a lot of people, like, including myself, who've spent years and years of their life dedicated to training in that. You know, I hold a degree in performing arts. I'm working towards my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and perhaps one day I'll get a PhD in theater. I'm a bit of a fine art nerd, so I come from a fine art understanding. And professional wrestling is endlessly fascinating to me because it's a performance style that's incomparable to any other kind of performance. Yes, it could be like theater disguised as a sport, which I often refer to it as, but there's nothing like it. And I love it. I love that you're performing for the camera and for a live audience at the same time. I love the grandioseness of it all. And then also just now I'm thinking about Bret Hart earlier this year ripping apart wrestling today, saying that he finds it boring and silly and that it's become phony. And I actually agree with him. I do miss exactly what he's talking about. I miss the realness. I mean, I think it's just the true athleticism, the true performance value. Like one guy hurling himself off the top rope to like 20 big burly men's, like pretending like he's a bowling pin and then knocking them all over. That's what's phony. And yes, it's fun. Like if you want to talk about DDT from Japan,
Yeah.
yes, I love that. They're totally 100% going over the top with the ridiculousness and the phoniness of it all. You have wrestlers wrestling blow up dolls. This is great. This is fun. There's so many branches of wrestling, but it is. Wow, I'm ranting again. It is definitely very, very, very challenging, and it is not just something anybody can do. And I see people who are like, oh, they just got into wrestling like 2 or 3 years ago, and suddenly they want to do deathmatch. And I'm like, okay. I'm glad you put in, anyone who puts in the work, I'm here for you. But it doesn't mean you're going to be successful in it. It's actually so hard.
It takes a lot of work. And I mean, you did obviously did some in-ring training for a few months back in 2018. Like you said, you know, it wasn't a fit for you, but you did, which is totally valid too, because like you said, it is definitely not for everybody, but you still are involved in some non-wrestling roles, although, you know, occasionally managing and valeting crosses over a little bit in there. You do obviously managing, ring announcing, interviewing. I know you've been wanting to do more work in the valet and manager realm, so I'm curious, who would be your dream client that you'd love to manage?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so yes, I'm planning on, I want to work this. This is going to require a lot of preparation. Certainly not, that's certainly going to require taking some bumps, and I'm happy to do it. Again, to go back to my theater training, I do hold a certificate in stage combat certification, which is not like stunts and combat, very difficult. So I'm ready to do it, and I want to do it. It's just, who would I like to, there is one wrestler in Super Kicked right now, Matt Burns, that I realistically am looking to manage, because his Dallas Kyle, who he's been having quite a long feud with, his manager, Johnny the One, that's for Johnny the One right there. So I really want to represent Matt Burns, especially because I just can't stand this Johnny the One so bad. So I feel like we already established a feud the other night at Super Kick. So this will continue. This is going to continue. So realistically, that is actually going to happen. But in the dream world, in Japan right now, there is a phenomenal female wrestler named Toxic Thecla. She's like the toxic spider. I would love to represent a female wrestler like that. I think that would be badass. In the WWE, which I would love to work in, I think, oh man, just anybody kind of like a Booker T. I just feel like also like a really big, intense, almost like rock star kind of guy. I would love to, like, you know how I was talking about Sunny and Furkasad? I would like him to be like twice my height. I think that would be absolutely hilarious and amazing.
How tall are you?
At first I thought Bobby Lashley, but he's just almost a bit too pretty boy for what I want. I want someone who's
fair,
rough. But no, I would do literally anyone. But immediately for like that toxic, I think it's Thecla.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I just think she's doing such a great job. I would love to valet a female as just a change, because you often see the valet with the sexy man or the sexy valet girl with the man.
Yeah.
I'd like to represent a woman. I don't know, but she's the first one that obviously came to mind. Someone like that.
I feel like, I mean, that'd be a huge opportunity for you. Obviously, more realistically, you mentioned Super Kicked. They just had their pro wrestling rock show in Toronto a couple days ago. I'm curious, I mean, kind of pro wrestling rock show. How was that experience, and what did this atmosphere look like? I know you were ring announcing it, so can you tell us more about that?
That space is amazing. If you ever get a chance, anyone listening, to see a Super Kick show in Toronto, they do it at the Great Hall. This space is very special because it has a very fight pit vibe about it. You get to be right up against the ring. There's no seating, so the front row is literally touching, hitting the stage. In fact, one of the people in the front row, actually the ring flew off their hand in the middle of the match and rolled into the match. So it does pose some extra obstacles for those in the ring, which no, we don't want to see that happening, and that was a mistake. But it's that vibe. Everyone's right up on the ring, and then there's this beautiful balcony above. So you also have, when you look up, just tons of people dangling over a balcony, and it's very kind of small and intimate. So you can be really up close with the action. And again, watch out if you're in the front row, because the ladder match, honestly, it's a little bit dangerous too. You might take a hit from something. So beware, if you're ready as an audience to maybe get hit, you might have that happen to you at the Super
a little
Kick show.
Whiplash.
You might. Yeah, one of the ladders fell, and people do have to be careful. They got to jump out of the way, but it has a fight pit vibe, which is very, very cool. So yeah.
Oh, sounds interesting. See, I know you've attended a lot of wrestling events in your life as a spectator and also as a worker, but I'm curious, is there one or two events that you consider to be a favorite or that you hold close to your heart?
For wrestling events that I've been to, or just even just as a
either as a spectator or working. I'm curious if you have any events that you've seen in person live.
Yes. Okay. There's one that comes to mind right away that is very close to my heart. Actually, two that are very special.
Okay.
And both I went as a fan. In 2019, Bull Nakano came to Toronto. This is a really big deal. And it was for the Women's Summit, and it was also the premiere of OWE, which is the Oriental Wrestling Entertainment Company from China. That was also very special. So the entire event was very special. But to meet Bull Nakano, to see, she also even, had a little bit of she had like I don't know, what was it? It was, I don't know what now I'm trying to remember. I think it was like a ball and chain or something crazy, some sort of prop, but she did do a little bit of, I think it was the bunny, that girl from AEW, Allie was there, and Bull Nakano had a little bit of a thing with her.
Yeah, because Allie's from Canada, around Toronto. Yeah,
exactly. Yes, and so they had a little bit of a thing, and that was very special to me because I really, really, really love Bull Nakano.
I know.
And that was very special, because who knows when she will ever come back here. I mean, I wish I could say this summer, I wish, but I don't know when. And then another very special thing was in 2018, I went down to see the 85th anniversary of the CMLL in Mexico City.
Yes.
And they're actually having their 90th anniversary this year. So I'm planning on going down this September. I believe it's in September. I mean, it's always in September, but that was really special because I'd never been to one of their anniversary shows before, and they pulled a lot of people came, and there was a lot. The Impact show that happened that same week in Mexico City had La Parka in it, and this was his last Impact show ever before, unfortunately, we lost La Parka. So that was really special too, because had I not flown down for that, I would never have seen La Parka's last Impact show. And I just think that's really excellent energy. I really love wrestling in Mexico. The shows are so different compared to a Western, like a WWE or AEW show. The dancing, the musical involvement, the horns, there's just, they are quite an experience. So I also recommend anyone who goes to anyone who loves wrestling, seeing a CMLL or even a AAA show in Mexico City. But those are the two that I think were some of my favorites. But for me as a performer, I don't know. Here, I'm going to stop. You can ask me more.
No, but I think that's a real testament, because there's so many, like, wrestling is so vast, you know, it's niche, but it's also so vast. Like you just said, I know you're a huge fan of like 80s, like Japanese wrestling, Bull Nakano. That's like hard hitting style. Mexico is obviously more high, fast paced, luchador, you know, there's so many different styles of wrestling, but I'm glad you bring up Bull Nakano, because I know she and another person you mentioned earlier, Sable, are two of your kind of favorites of all time. Two very, very different women. Obviously, Bull Nakano more. We've seen Sable in the ring, but Bull is definitely more kind of involved in the ring. Sable, an iconic manager, a sex symbol. Love her. She's amazing. What drew you to those two specifically?
They're literally polar opposites.
I know.
It's like,
but I love it.
It's so funny. They are, okay, so yeah, I could also go on a rant about Deathmatch Day and how uninterested I am, and what I find, it's just like shock value for the sake of shock value, and it's kind of just like violence porn, and like, I don't know, you won't see me at a GCW show. I'm just not really, I'm kind of bored with that. But there was when you want to talk her, what I love about Bull Nakano, first of all, is that she is a badass woman in the 90s in a very right-winged country. And as a feminist, that is excellent for me to see. I also really love the juxtaposition of I mean, not to put genders on everything here, but if you look at the hyper violence of the sport of pro wrestling, it seems very masculine and very like male dominated. And when you have a woman in that world, I just love the juxtaposition of the feminine and this hyper violence. Because when you just have like oh man doing oh man stuff, it's okay. But there's a level of, she was just a badass. I love the way aesthetically, the way she did her hair, the way she just did her makeup, everything about the way she dressed was just very cool, very badass to me. And especially because it was that time, from that place, in that context. And then Sable, I love that she pushed this hyper. And so yeah, again, Bull Nakano is not pushing hypersexuality in any way. She's not even pushing like hyper feminine, like a hyper feminine look. But then you have the opposite, which is Sable. And I guess some feminists might turn their nose up and be like, oh, like that's so bad for, like, you know, we're turning women into sex objects. And I actually think the opposite. I think that hurling and throwing the what it is to be this like sexy woman, what am I trying to say? Hurling it into the face of the patriarchy is the absolute best thing. So what I love about Sable is she's just like over the top feminine woman, but also really badass. And she always wore a lot of black. And I aesthetically, just in terms of like style, I really love her style. And I mean, Miss Elizabeth is very special because she was very classy. Yes. And that is I think that's excellent to see this classy, beautiful like gown inside of this world of just men beating the shit out of each other. That's, I don't know, Sable is just cool. I don't know how else to answer. I just think she's cool. And I know that I know that Sunny actually doesn't have anything nice to say about Sable at all, but I still think in terms of style, she's an icon to me, and I get a lot of she influences me a lot, and I get a lot of inspiration with her whole entire aesthetic.
I know.
I don't know. I like both. I don't know why they're the two that I can't help but always like the most. And actually, going back to Japanese, sorry. In a side note, Megumi Kudo, though, I find her incredibly fascinating because unlike Bull Nakano, she didn't have like a hardcore look. She had actually more of like a Power Ranger look, but she looked more like a, pretty nice, like princess-like girl. She has no tattoos. She didn't do her hair crazy. She didn't dye it crazy. She had this, and she often wore pink or white, and that was really cool because then when the blood comes, you have this beautiful Megumi Kudo covered in blood, and yet she had this like pink and white outfit, and she had her hair just nice, and I just thought I think she's a really cool person because she didn't have to shove it in your face that she was hardcore. She actually actively was, but on the surface you didn't see it coming. So that's why I think Megumi Kudo is very cool.
I feel like it's a good versatility, and especially Sable you're a huge fan of the Attitude Era. She was obviously huge during that era. Same with Sunny and all of that. So can you tell us some of your favorite memories or other performers from the Attitude Era in that time period?
Oh yeah, the Attitude Era. I love this era so much. Oh, I wish I gotta take this blur thing like off here. It's not working out. But I have a huge collection of photo cards from 1999, and I wish this blurry thing wasn't messing up what I'm trying to show you here. But what I love about the Attitude Era aesthetically, people I just feel like the wrestlers were I don't know, like Stone Cold is a huge inspiration for me because of his aesthetic is literally like how I want to dress like every day. Right. I just want to wear they just how do we describe why the Attitude Era was just so badass? I feel like they just seemed bigger than life. I know, like, Roman Reigns is a huge star and that's bigger than life, but
you're an 80s baby, right?
I am.
So especially during that time, you were probably, I don't know if you had a rebellious stage at all. I was born when the Attitude Era started, so I didn't get to live any of that. But especially if you're like born in the 80s, I assume you'll be in at least your preteens or teens by the time that started. So maybe it was kind of like a rebellious phase, or they're just like well, especially DX too, which is my favorite tag team of all time.
Oh my God. I wish I had DX merch.
I love it.
I don't have any.
But I feel like it was just like a different, like they gave attitude, and especially if you're like a preteen or a teen during that time, I feel like you can kind of like relate to that in a way, maybe that's why. I don't know. I know.
That's literally what every single teacher on like a recess was dealing with children, like wrestling in these horribly unsafe gymnasiums. Like now kids have like plastic gym play sets. We had metal everything with chains, swings that were chains, metal like play sets, and the kids from the 90s were just doing the craziest wrestling moves on each other all the time, everywhere, and then just telling each other to suck it.
I know.
I feel bad for the teachers in the 90s because I don't think teachers today really have to quite deal with it on that level. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I just think it was really like fun because I guess it was a little more edgy. It's a
Yeah.
little more safe today. And that's why you are not seeing, people like Sable ripping their shirts off. You're not seeing any bikini contests anymore.
Yeah, the demographic has definitely changed. Well, at least since 2008 when they went PG, at least WWE wise. Other companies have different demographics and stuff, but
I just like the overall I just think that this overall style and the literal attitude of the Attitude Era, I just miss it. I'm working to try to bring it back. And I think there's actually an excellent quote that I reference from Sable from Rena Morrow is, or not Morrow anymore, obviously. Rena is that she said that she said, I think are several things that people do not get about professional wrestling. And one of the things is that we are entertainment. I think people forget this. There is like entertainment. And yes, this is me again, speaking as someone who spent their life in the theater.
yeah.
There is a level of entertainment that I'm not seeing. I was seeing in the 90s that I'm not seeing today. But who's kind of bringing it today? Actually, at the last Impact show in Toronto, Joe Hendry was there.
Yeah.
I believe in
Hendry.
First of all, this excellent song. Phenomenal. It's like so good. The just hilarious kitsch of his the video that he made for the song. Everything about his entrance. There's a level of humor and him like, I know I'm a wrestler, I'm a wrestler, I am we are, I don't know, I just found his like energy really refreshing, and there was a lightness to it, and there was like and he's also like a black belt, so like he's actually, I guess why I'm bringing him up is because I find that wrestling lately is like one tone. It's just like super serious, like I am a crazy like clown, or I don't know, like a lot of like metal heads and kind of like nonstop, just kind of like the one same note. And then Joe Hendry came in and I was, wow, refreshing, a totally different, like bright energy. And I miss this. I mean, there's still like lots of great performers that add this, but I miss what Sable was talking about, that we are entertainment, and there is a great level of storytelling and entertainment and characters and like iconic characters that are not just wrestlers that I'm not seeing right now. Like even in the Double or Nothing last night, I guess actually, no. Jeff Jarrett's wife, I think it's his wife.
Karen? Oh, Karen's a hoot.
The best part of the whole thing, actually. Karen, yes. Karen literally was like the best part for me. In fact, that was entertaining to me. That was really great for me. And who was the really, really tall
Big
other
Bill?
woman? That was fantastic. So I was like, oh, cool. Wow. Two other like characters that are adding this element that I totally want to see more of. And I guess in a way, that's what I mean by, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm at a loss for describing. I'm missing that level of performance and character and over the topness, but not in like a fake. I mean, I don't know, Paul Bearer, things like this. I don't see it happening right now, so we'll see. I want to bring it back.
I mean, like the good thing though is that, wrestling it is so widespread and vast. You can kind of choose what you want to watch. There's certain things that I'm necessarily not a fan of this genre of wrestling or this style, but
Mhm.
you just don't have to watch it. You can kind of
True.
watch what you enjoy, but I kind of wanted to start closing things out with, we talked a lot of wrestling, but like you said, the entertainment and the performance art value is very relevant to you with considering your acting experience. So when did you know that you wanted to be an actress, or what really gravitated you towards the acting world?
Oh man, I don't even remember not wanting to do it. When I was a kid, my little sisters and I constantly put on shows for the family. We went up north to the cottage every Friday at the end of like a week we'd spend the whole week at the cottage preparing a show. I would obviously be directing it, like a super diva director. And we always were performing. In fact, in my family, I feel like, especially on my mom's side, that a sense of humor and play was always really valued. My mom's side comes from New Brunswick in the East Coast, and I think the East Coast people already have a level of fun humor that I miss in different places. But we valued my parents. I guess I always felt that was valued in my family, so that was really lovely, and we were supported as children making shows. And as a child, I also, another thing, when I was in grade 5, we did a school speech contest, and I was scared. So I was so scared to get in front of everyone. I never did a speech before, um, but I did my speech on Shirley Temple, and I subjected my family to watching every single Shirley Temple movie as I got ready for my speech. And I worked really hard, and I remember getting up in front of everyone and being so afraid. I didn't want to, it's like facing a fear.
Yeah.
And then I ended up doing it, and I won the speech contest. And I think at that moment I realized, if you face your fear, you will be probably shocked at what you're capable of. And in fact, you'll probably open a whole new door for you. From that moment on, I was like, oh, I want to keep facing this fear. I want to keep getting up in front of people, because there's something very alive in that for me. Some of the most alive moments I've ever felt have been on stage. I really miss live performance because I've gravitated more towards film.
Yeah.
As in acting, I'm not so much in the theater world anymore. I'm more in film, and you don't have the live audience in film. That energy from live, it's something I can't explain. And because I am so specifically focused on the moment, it's a really beautiful place to be, because I'm not thinking about yesterday. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. I'm not thinking about my grocery list or all the things I have to do in life. I'm in that exact moment. The story we're telling, or the show that's happening, is the only thing that matters in that moment. And it can kind of transport people from the mundane reality of like the outside life, and it sort of elevates existence. It kind of like, it's this magic of bringing you into a kind of another realm, creating another space.
Yeah.
And I'm addicted to that. I just love doing it. I love doing it. So since I was a kid, I just always enjoyed that energy, and I always enjoyed that space that I could be in as the person that transports an audience into like another place. I love that.
And you grow up watching, television, theater, you're seeing films. Whose work do you enjoy or admire in any of those scopes of theater, film, or television?
Whose work do I really enjoy? As like an actor, or
I would say actor or actress or performer in the theater realm too.
um wow, immediately I have to say, one of my all-time favorite directors of all time is Peter Greenaway. He did a lot of work in the 80s and 90s, and his films are aesthetically like incredible, because he used to be a painter and then he started making film. In one of his films, The Cook, the Thief, the Wife, and His Lover, this was from, I think, 88 or something like that. Helen Mirren, who's a very famous, and people may obviously know Helen Mirren, she's a famous actress in film, but she comes from theater training. she's in that movie. And Michael, I was just talking to one of the guys at the Double or Nothing party last night about Michael Gambon in this film. He is so good as a villain. If you want to see a bad guy, like, yes, there's Tony Soprano, but then there's Michael Gambon as the thief and the cook, the thief, the wife, and his lover, which is like crazy. So in terms of who do I think is, Helen Mirren's performance in that is amazing. As a female actress that I really look up to, Jessica Lange. Everyone knows her from American Horror Story, but I really love Jessica Lange because she also comes from theater, and she's also an older woman who's sexy and hot and thriving and doing it. I am so sick and tired of people thinking that their life ends once they're over their 20s and their 30s. You have this much more life. And women, I plan on being like a hot, badass 77-year-old. And then I plan on like apexing and like the height of my coolness when I'm an old person. I'm so sick of this obsession with youth. So Jessica Lange is, again, a huge inspiration to me because she's a badass and she's sexy and she's hot, and her training is similar to mine, and her background. But to go back to like movies that are wonderful that really inspire me, Peter Greenaway really inspires me. He did the Pillow Book with what's his name from Trainspotting?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Wow, what's wrong with me right now? My brain.
It's okay.
Ewan McGregor. His kind of the theatrics of his films. Also, speaking of filmmakers and wrestling, Robert Rodriguez, his Lucha Underground is really cool. And I'd love to work with him somehow because he is someone also who comes from a fine art film background, and he loves wrestling. And then he created Lucha Underground, which is really cool. If no one's ever seen it, you have like, it's an amazing, literally Robert Rodriguez, I know, is directing a wrestling show for you. But I don't know if that answers the question, but it's the first things that like popped into my head in terms of things that I get really excited about.
Yeah, and kind of two more questions for you. You know, I feel like the acting world and theater world, there's so much like unpredictability. I feel like things can go crazy. There's a bunch of different roles. Do you have any weird or maybe interesting stories or moments from your experience in the acting world?
Oh, weird moments? No, there's so many weird moments. What's one of them? Oh man, why can't I think of anything fun right now? Oh, well, oh, it's gonna come to me. This is gonna be one of those things where I spend the rest of my day going, why didn't you say that? Well, one of the weirdest characters I ever played that was super strange, but my favorite character of all time, was in a production with Katazuki in Toronto, which is Tatiana Jennings, who is the artistic director of Humber College. This is her theater company that I worked with. We did a show that was based on the short tales of E.T.A. Hoffmann. E.T.A. Hoffmann is a 19th century writer. You would know the Nutcracker, right? The Nutcracker ballet.
Yes.
Everyone knows the Nutcracker, Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker, but the actual story comes from E.T.A. Hoffmann. He's like the first romance sci-fi writer, like horror. So it's like horror, romance, and sci-fi together. This is what you're getting in E.T.A. Hoffmann stories. And that's why he always has these like automatrons or robots. So in the Nutcracker, you have the huge lifelike dolls. And it's always like a kind of, there's a romance, horror, like science fiction element to all of these things. And if you look at the Nutcracker like that, you can totally see there's horror elements with the crazy mice, Rat King, there's romance, and there's science fiction elements. So we did a show where I played the automatron Ophelia, and the entrance was my favorite ever. They created this stunning, beautiful life-size doll box with real glass walls, and they wallpapered the back of it in this stunning Japanese wallpaper, and they rolled me in on stage as this robot. And I think my favorite part was I had to develop a really crazy glitch the sound in my voice to play this robot. But one of the weirdest things I had to do was there was this scene where the robot starts to malfunction and she ends up getting into a wheelchair, but I had to have my mouth stuffed with like nuts and bolts and all kinds of different parts because at one point they just start falling out of my
Yeah.
mouth. And the taste of this, I think that could probably be one of the weirdest, coolest characters I ever played, was this robot that malfunctions, who's like glitching out, who's breaking down, who's also hyper. She was like a hypersexual, like autumn, like she was like a robot of like desire, but she was like also kind of grotesquely getting a limp, and she was very cool. But yeah, I think holding all of the nuts and bolts in my mouth was a really weird thing, and it actually reminds me of last night when they shoved all of the, did you watch the pay-per-view last night when they shoved all the tacks
Yes.
into, oh my god, I felt so bad when all the tacks were in his mouth. It totally reminded me of the when I had to shove all of
Yeah, all
the
that
mechanical
metal.
parts into my mouth.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just said that. I don't know what a weird.
like tacks would hurt more, but still.
If
Yeah.
there's any weird blooper behind the scene things, I'm not sure. I was always such a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Like everything had to be right. If I didn't have my right socks, I was freaking out. It had to be
Mhm.
perfect. So I don't know if I have any crazy like blooper stories, but playing this robot and filling my mouth full of like nuts and bolts and nails was as close as I'm getting to filling my mouth with thumbtacks. But it did remind me of that last night when I was watching the pay-per-view.
Yeah. You know, I am, again, thank you so much for chatting with me before obviously we kind of get out of here and stuff. You're obviously, you have this you have stuff going on in wrestling, ring announcing, you know, working on becoming more of a valet, getting more reps in there, but then you also have the acting and you're trying to do more film. What goals are you looking to accomplish next right now, both personally and professionally?
Personally, I'm looking for new representation as an actor. So that's a very big, important thing for me because I would like to work on more really, really cool projects. I love Dark Side of the Ring and I will love to work with them as long as possible. And I would love if they ever featured Sable, and I will 100% take that role. um, but I would like to, I want to work uh, on more really exciting, just more exciting projects that are shooting here in Toronto or elsewhere as an actor. And yes, I am seeking representation. So that is on the to-do list, or that's right now, that's really important to me. And as a personality in the wrestling world, honestly, as like a crazy goal, I want to work for the WWE. I totally do. I want to be in their media department and I want to continue to do my research and really, really work hard at ring announcing. I never thought that would ever be a thing that I would be passionate about. But with my experience lately, ring announcing, I love it. I love it so much. So I'm going to start just watching every UFC fight I can and focusing on the ring announcer because that's a totally new thing I never thought I would be doing, but I'm really interested in that. And again, for travel and fun things, I want to get down to the 90th anniversary of the CMLL this
Yeah.
fall. That's something. So in my year, uh, I just really want to find the right agent. Right now, I just don't have the right agent, but I will never not be in this industry. I will never not be doing this. The only other thing is I work in art department in film. I work in set dressing. So I'm hoping, well, right now there's the unfortunate writer's strike. So,
Yeah.
which I support. I support the writers, but it's not, it definitely does affect what's happening in Toronto regarding film sets. But my long-term goal is to always be involved in film, and my long-term goal is to continue to rise in the world of wrestling because I think it's very special and I'm endlessly fascinated, endlessly feel very grateful for wrestling. I've met some of the most beautiful people ever just as the community in the community. I think this community is really beautiful. So I just really love everyone, even the fans. I love this world of people.
Well, you've definitely risen up, gotten some amazing opportunities so far. I mean,
Mhm.
Dark Side of the Ring, of course, is one of them. Again, that'll be premiering tonight on Vice TV. Obviously, the premiere episode, we will be seeing you with Sunny and Chris Candido. That portrayal, we'll keep an eye out for you. Before we let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on your social medias?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Lethal Miss Lulu. I was gonna work on a Twitch. I was gonna work on, I don't have a Snapchat or anything, but Lethal Miss Lulu. And yeah, Dark Side of the Ring premiering 10 p.m. So I guess if you're in Canada, you can watch it on Crave. It's on Vice TV, and I believe it's on Hulu as well.
Yes.
And I am so excited because this season, not just the Sunny
I
and
know.
Chris episode, like it's fire. I watched the behind the scenes of the Magnum episode being shot, and that the guy they cast is crazy good. So I'm pumped as a fan, even just to watch the entire season. So I'm excited to.
And we can look forward to seeing you on the Marty Jannetty episode. That'll be
Mhm.
coming out in the future as well. Don't exactly know when, but filming is right around the corner for that, literally in like tomorrow or 2 days.
Oh, it's literally today.
Today.
Well, see, we're
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm also back with them next week. It's the episode's still filming next week,
Ah.
shooting next week too.
So that'll be exciting. We get a little double dose of
Mhm.
Lulu, maybe more in the future. Especially if they come out with a Sable episode, we'll start a petition. We need to get you in there.
Yes, Lulu, Lulu. Oh my God, yeah. Like if anyone else plays Sable, like no, it's not. First of all, it's not. It's not happening.
It's not an
It's not
option. It's not an option.
It's not happening. Oh my gosh, you're the most lovely. I absolutely love talking to you.
Same
Thank you
with
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. Of course, we look forward to Dark Side of the Ring coming up tonight on Vice TV and all the streaming platforms. Of course, we look forward to the entire season. There's a lot of dark stories, but I feel like, there's a lot of portrayal. And especially if you're a wrestling fan, this is kind of a must-see season, I think. Lulu, thank you so much for joining me here today. I mean, she's firsthand, so if you don't believe me, believe Lulu, because she's been on set, she's seen some behind the scenes things. So
It's
trust me, if you don't believe
amazing.
me, believe her.
No, I'm telling you, the shots I've seen are crazy. I can't wait to post tomorrow. So as in about 24 hours, I will post some of the behind the scene photos. Nathan Boone is the set photographer, and his photos he took of these episodes are stunning. And of course, they're not allowed to be released until the season airs.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. There's gonna be a lot of really beautiful photos coming out soon because their art department and the direction on the whole entire team is incredible. They're really honestly, it's one of the best docuseries of all time, if not the absolute best. It's first of all like the best wrestling docuseries of all time. So I really hope they win some awards. They deserve it. This team is phenomenal. Anyways, thank you again.
Thank you so much. And again, congratulations too on all your success. And we look forward to seeing hopefully more of you in future seasons and future episodes.
Right.